He just sat down with Tucker Carlson. Let me share with you part of that interview. He said that, quote, I can definitely say at particular dinners and meetings, he knew, meaning Biden knew, there were business associates. He did not claim that Joe Biden had actually ever discussed the business dealings. So that's a distinction and some good news, I guess, with those associates. But he went on to say, quote, I do not know if it was an orchestrated call-in or not. These were the call-ins, right? During the dinners, during the dinner meetings, suddenly, hey, let me talk to dad. It was, he continues, powerful though, because if you're sitting with a foreign business person, you hear the vice president's voice, that's prize enough. He went on. Well, prize enough, especially when you consider what was going on at the time. And certainly, as far as Burisma was concerned in Ukraine, Burisma was actually under investigation for fraud. And what do you know? They put Joe Biden's son on the board at $80,000 a month. And then when the investigation starts heating up and the prosecutor over in Ukraine that's going after them is becoming a problem, Hunter's able to, phone daddy, and suddenly that prosecutor gets fired. You've seen the clip. I played it for you again yesterday. He admitted to it himself at an event at the Council on Foreign Relations. So again, what you got to try and piece together is whether or not it was in fact quid pro quo, if in fact the two things were tied. And I think as all this evidence comes forward, you're seeing increasingly the likelihood that there was a little bit more that was known, shall we say, to the now president of the United States than he let on. And that is going to be a problem. So what happens now? They go after Donald Trump. They go after Donald Trump with yet another legal headache. Now, part of the thinking may be, well, how can this guy ever win the presidency again, given that Americans are exhausted? And I would tell you, Americans are exhausted. Look, I saw this news and I'm like, again, seriously, you got to be kidding me. Like, I'm just tired of it. I'm exhausted by it. Here's the thing, though. And this is why I've always said, not to count Trump out. I said, don't count him out in 16. They think he's the easy guy to run against. In actuality, the more this stuff comes up, yes, granted, people are exhausted, but at some point they start to say, wait a second, because if you're actually trying to say that, we can't actually get up there and spout our opinions, spout what we think, et cetera, it feels as though you might actually be restricting an entire group of people, half of the country, conservatives, for the foreseeable future. I mean, if you decide, and you're the ones in charge, that you don't like a particular viewpoint or a particular sensibility, a particular political position, you then have the right to say, go after that person for their legal position legally and shut them down. All while simultaneously, saying, okay, well, we're going to say that, if you have an XX chromosome, it doesn't matter, XY, that's all up for debate. And hey, those that were born as men can now compete because they feel and identify as women on a particular day, their junior year in college. Well, that's, again, if you dispute that, you're suddenly in trouble. That's, again, causing everyday Americans to say, wait a second, you're going too far. So according to this indictment, there was no evidence that Mr. Trump was actually directly linked to the Oath Keepers or the Proud Boys, or that, they were all planning, as has been alleged, to have some giant rush on the Capitol that day. What they are suggesting, however, is that he was dishonest. Trump was dishonest, there was fraud, there was deceit. In other words, while he may have had, and I quote, like every American, the right to speak publicly about the election and even to claim falsely that there had been outcome determinative fraud during the election that he had won, while he had the right to do that, he didn't have the right to then move forward and try to effectively overturn the election. But I guess I would just go back to, again, do you not have the right to legally challenge something if it's not crystal clear? This is what, I guess, even if you think that maybe you lost, don't you still have a right to sort of double check everything and dot your I's and cross your T's, as Hillary Clinton, I'm going to play it again, had promised the Democrats they absolutely needed to do in the event that Donald Trump were to win in 2020.
Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances, because I think this is going to drag out, and eventually I do believe he will win if we don't give an inch.
We don't give an inch. That was the thinking. I mean, that just blew me away at the time. I got to tell you guys, because I heard that and I'm like, really? I mean, that is full on Banana Republic kind of stuff. And again, this is before Trump was saying, oh, I won, when he didn't. I mean, this is actually, this to me was sort of the beginning of it all. Not to mention how she continually kept telling everyone that Trump somehow stole the election with the help of the Russians. I mean, that is sort of, if you would, the seeds of what was to come. So it started somewhere. It started on the left. And now here we are with indictment after indictment after indictment. I guess the Democrats thinking that they're just going to wear people down. They're so sick of Trump being in legal trouble, and therefore, he can't possibly win. Hey everyone, Trish Regan here. If you enjoyed that clip, please do me the favor of subscribing to the channel. Just hit that little subscribe button right over there. Did I do that right? Not quite, but you know where it is. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so that you get the alerts, and I'll see you back on the show.